Hello and welcome back to the interview. I'm your host, Jennifer Clyde. Dr. Stephen Linton, also known as INNERview in Korea, is the founder and chairman of the Eugene Bell Foundation. He visits North Korea on a regular basis, dedicating his efforts to providing treatment for tuberculosis patients. Stay tuned to find out more. Okay, so here I am all ready to meet Dr. Linton, and I think, yes, we've come to the right place. It says Eugene Bell Foundation. Now, this is the door into the office, so let's go ahead and ring the bell. 네, 안녕하세요. The Interview의 Jennifer Clyde라고 합니다.
네, 들어오세요.
네.
어서 오십시오.
안녕하세요. It's wonderful to finally have this opportunity to meet you in person, and I'm very excited to find out all about the Eugene Bell Foundation.
Well, thank you for taking the time to drop by our office.
This is a map of North Korea.
Yes.
This is actually my first time actually seeing a map of North Korea.
We have our program in 12 different MDR, multi-drug resistant tuberculosis treatment centers. And as you see, our work is limited to the western half, where most of the people live.
In this area,
Yeah.
where there are red dots.
Yeah, we make 2 visits a year, and we provide everything needed to treat these people after they've been diagnosed with the MDR.
In North Korea, numerous tuberculosis patients are on the verge of death because they fail to receive proper treatment at the right time. The Eugene Bell Foundation has been endeavoring to better assist these patients. The person who started it all is Stephen Linton.
You're the founder and chairman of the Eugene Bell Foundation Korea. Could you maybe begin by telling us who Eugene Bell was?
Eugene Bell was a Southern Presbyterian missionary who arrived in Korea in 1895. And he and his descendants stayed and have been in Korea for over 100 years. And I chose that name because I happened to be one of his great-grandchildren. And I thought it was important for the North Koreans for me to identify myself. So it's not a family foundation. It's just a way of identifying who we are.
Ah, I see. Now, the Eugene Bell was founded in the U.S. way before it was founded in Korea, Eugene Bell Korea. When was it founded exactly?
Well, I was teaching at Columbia University when North Korea first asked for humanitarian assistance in 1995.
I see.
And so after taking a good look at what kinds of humanitarian efforts were being made to assist them, I realized that Korean Americans were not being served very well. It was illegal at that time for South Koreans to donate directly, but it was quite easy for Korean Americans. And so Eugene Bell US was founded to make it easy for South Koreans to participate in an aid program for North Korea where their identities were known to the North Koreans. In other words, the donors knew who they were. And a program that met with the requirements of U.S. law and hopefully was efficient and effective. Later on, after 2000, it became legal for private sector organizations to donate directly to North Korea from South Korea.
I see.
And by that time, we were heavily into tuberculosis work. So Eugene Bell Korea was founded so to make it easier for Korean donors to participate.
Ah, I see. I understand that you've visited North Korea a number of times, many, many times. How many times did you visit North Korea?
I've tried to count. It's probably somewhere over 80, but
Over 80.
I've lost count. Yeah.
Wow. So over 80 times. Some years you've traveled much more than 2 times, several times a year. For what reasons did you travel to North Korea?
Well, I studied Korean history and ideology as a graduate student, and obviously North Korea was a big part of my graduate research. For that reason, I had traveled to North Korea to watch table tennis matches in 1979, and that sort of sparked my interest in North Korea. So I spent a career studying North Korea and interacting with North Korea as an academic or as a consultant to people who were interested in North Korea and that sort of thing. So it was sort of a natural thing for me to look at ways to organize food assistance in 1995 when they actually called me and asked me to do so. And I didn't think I'd be doing it for more than 3 years, but here I am 20 years later.
Now, was there a specific reason as to why you decided to dedicate your efforts to providing treatment to tuberculosis patients in North Korea?
Well, after Eugene Bell did food assistance for 2 years, the North Koreans invited us to become involved in TB because they considered it, and I think they still do, their number 1, number 2, and number 3 most serious health problem. And so in 1997 we became involved, and Eugene Bell worked with regular TB for a 10-year period and provided medications for somewhat over 250,000 people. Then in 2007, the Global Fund, the UN program, made a decision to get behind regular TB treatment and to provide all the TB medicines needed for those patients. So in looking around to see if there was anything else to do, we realized that patients who failed treatment with regular TB medicines really had nowhere to go. Usually people fail, not always, but usually people fail treatment because they have either developed a resistant TB bacillus in their own bodies or have caught TB from someone who already has a mutant form of TB, super TB. And if they fail, they would die in about 2 or 3 years. And so we started our program in 2007 to try to see if we could provide a course of treatment for people who essentially had failed and were dying.
Tuberculosis, TB for short, is a top death-causing infectious disease worldwide. TB is an airborne disease. The TB bacteria can remain dormant for years until the immune system becomes compromised. It can have devastating effects on the respiratory system, which may eventually lead to death. The Eugene Bell Foundation has been dedicated to the eradication of TB in North Korea. They visit North Korea twice a year to help patients with TB infections that are non-treatable with the first-line anti-TB drugs. Patients must receive inpatient therapies that last 6 months to 2 years away from their families. Sputum samples are collected regularly for analysis so that they can provide individually tailored treatments. MDR-TB, which has a high mortality rate, requires long treatments with second-line drugs that can cause serious adverse effects. Because every second counts for MDR-TB patients, they introduced advanced testing equipment that allows a quick and accurate diagnosis of MDR-TB. Thanks to these efforts, they've attained an MDR-TB cure rate of 75%.
남편과 아이들이 기다리고 있습니다.
빨리 병을 완치돼서 그냥 집으로 돌아가서 사랑하는 아들도 안아보고 보고.
어머니가 이제 병을 낫고 빨리 가겠으니까 어머니를 기다려다오.
The Eugene Bell Foundation is offering new hope to MDR-TB patients in North Korea and giving them a second chance at life.
Perhaps you could tell us about the cost or your budget for each trip and how exactly it's funded, because we're talking about a great amount of money.
Yes. That our patients cost us approximately, or we have to budget $5,000 or 500만 won for each patient.
Yes.
And we met our goal in 2015 and enrolled 1,000 new patients. And because each patient is treated for 18 months, we now have about 1,500 people under treatment. So if you look at the cost of, if you multiply the number of patients that we take in every year by $5,000, you can get a pretty good picture of what it costs to treat these people.
Right. Could you also tell us about how you decided to build the assembly type wards?
The nature of TB is that if you have a building with a hall, unless it's specially ventilated, the germs will just go from room to room and infect everybody who walks into the building. I think Koreans saw this with the MERS.
Yes.
Very much like that. So to have a system that doesn't require expensive ventilation, you have to have buildings that don't have halls and where all doors open to the outside. If you're going to have that kind of a building in North Korea, it has to be super insulated. So in looking around for options for patient wards, we found that there was a way of building one-story duplexes with all doors opening to the outside, kind of like a traditional Korean house.
Oh, I see.
With super insulated material. But since this was not available in North Korea, the best solution was to build it in panels and then assemble the panels in North Korea.
We paid Mr. and Mrs. Linton a visit at their apartment in Osan, Gyeonggi-do Province. He told us he was planning to develop a heating system for the wards in North Korea. We followed him to a nearby woodworking shop.
사장님 안녕하십니까? 네, 어서 오십시오. 일하러 왔습니다. 네, 도움이 될지 모르겠어요. 네. 한 3일 전에 저한테 전화를 주셨어요. 사실 이러이러한 일이 있어서 한번 찾아뵙고 얘기 좀 상의 좀 하자고 하셔서 흔쾌히 오라고 하셨습니다. 왜냐면 그분의 뜻이 아주 너무 좋은 뜻을 가지고 계셔서 저도 제가 도울 수 있는 길이 있으면 조금 도와야 되겠다는 생각을 늘 해왔습니다.
In the Korean-style heating system, water pipes are installed under cement floors. Then, hot water is supplied and circulated through the pipes using electric power. But electricity is unavailable at the wards in North Korea, rendering this type of heating system inapplicable.
아니요, 이거 좀
여기 다 들어오는데.
이거 좀 같이 봅시다요.
Mr. Linton took out his laptop to better explain the situation.
이게 이제 북한 이제 현재 그 요양소들이요.
짓고 있는 것만 새로.
이게 이제 짓고 있는 것.
신축이.
Together, they viewed images of TB treatment wards that are currently under construction and in need of a heating system that doesn't require any electric power supply. That's why Mr. Linton decided to develop a cost-effective system using styrofoam panels with high insulating capacity. This project is still in its pilot phase and will require a few trials and errors before its completion.
그렇죠. 아주 좋아요. 선생님 사실 이것 때문에 제 많이 도움이 됐습니다.
Afterwards, Mr. Linton went to a hardware store to look for the necessary parts and components. He approached the salesperson to ask questions and checked his list thoroughly to make sure he wasn't missing anything.
보통 깐깐하신 게 아니에요. 되게 무엇 하나 할 때도 되게 디테일하게 물어보시고요. 너무 정확하셔서 제가 실수할까 봐 제가 긴장을 합니다.
He had one more item left on his shopping list.
내가 한번 올라가 볼게요.
Mr. Linton, are you sure you want to go up there?
요거 15mm예요.
He personally chose each item and checked them meticulously to ensure they were exactly what he was looking for.
요것만 하면 돼요. 됐어요. 무겁지 않아요.
Mr. Linton left the store with his hands full. What was he planning to do with these supplies?
그 온돌판 조립할 수 있는 부품들 일부만 샀습니다. 일부만. 한번 실험적으로 한번 해보고 이 자동 순환이 되는지 물.
He went back to the woodworking shop with the supplies he bought earlier and began working on the heating system with his wife.
This is what I want to find out.
They began with the rigorous process of fixing the pipes onto the styrofoam panels. They worked diligently with the North Korean patients in mind. We got a glimpse of his philosophy on reunification through this process.
사람들이 자꾸 북한 관계 통일하는데 이런 걸 관심 있어야 통일을 하지.
He believes small details must be worked out before we can tackle the bigger issues. The objective is to get the hot water to flow and circulate through the pipes automatically. There is no room for error because even the tiniest gap can cause leakage.
이거 안 되죠. 이거 이러면 내가 다시 해야 돼. 안 되죠.
자기가 만족할 때까지 변경을 하든지 철저하게 얘기를 듣고 그대로 해드리든지 둘 중에 하나입니다.
Mr. Chun is a veteran craftsman who can meet his clients' needs. Mr. and Mrs. Linton worked on the heating panels once again. From the coupling parts to the wires, there was not a single part of the heating panel that Mr. Linton didn't work on himself.
홍길동 북한 가면 홍길동이에요.
It shows that he's considered a hero by the common people. With his mind completely focused on his work, Mr. Linton did not even notice the blood on his hands. Their pilot project was finally complete. After one last inspection, it looked like everything was in order. They'll have to conduct experiments later on, but they were off to a good start.
요건 여기에 넣고 여기에 넣고. 이것은 모터 없이 자동으로 물이 그 뜨거운 물에 가벼운 힘으로 순환이 돼야 돼요. 지금 건물당 한 거의 100개가 필요합니다.
People often ask, why are you walking down this difficult path? And his answer has always been the same. Someone needs to do it. We hope this heating system development project is a great success so that the TB patients in North Korea can stay warm every winter.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge while implementing your medical aid program?
2015 is not only our 20th anniversary, but it's the year in which everything has kind of come together on the program end. We have an effective treatment program. It could be better, but it's very respectable. We have not only a cost-effective and an efficient patient ward design, but the North Koreans have actually accepted this last visit, our proposal for building large patient wards to accommodate more patients. So at this point, since all the foundation work has been done, the challenge from now on out is going to be funding. The lowest estimates are that the TB treatment program in North Korea every year creates 4,000 of these MDR patients. And yet our best efforts so far only permitted us to enroll 1,000. And every year you don't enroll everybody. The numbers of these patients goes up because they infect other people before they die. So now we're in a race against time. Whether we can enroll enough patients to slow down the increase of MDR in North Korea, or stop it, or God willing, even reverse it, or whether we're going to continue to see the numbers of patients grow larger and larger and larger.
In an article, it was an interview article, and you were quoted as saying TB treatment in North Korea is one of the preparations made toward reunification. Could you maybe elaborate on that?
Well, reunification is a very slippery word. It can be defined in many different ways. But fundamentally, unless you have interactions between ordinary people, political solutions are not particularly interesting. One of the ways that you can have today interaction between North and South Koreans is over the matter of TB. And in a sense, not only is it important because it is a #1 health concern in North Korea, but it is also actually a medical problem here. South Koreans could be doing better with TB. So rather than one side having the dominance of the other, TB is a very could be useful as a sort of joint project for better health on the Korean Peninsula. There's a lot of resistant TB in South Korea. Actually, I think more people died of TB during the MERS epidemic than died of MERS. But because it wasn't so dramatic, it has never gotten that much attention. But it is a serious problem here. Not as serious as in North Korea, but serious nonetheless. So I think as North Koreans and South Koreans look to a better, closer future, one of the ways to achieve that is to work together to solve real problems. And I think one of the problems that really stands out
Do you feel that that day will come very soon, or I know that's something that a lot of Koreans, most Koreans are hoping for, but...
Yeah, I think that if there is an answer, ironically, to North Korea's MDR question, it will come from the private sector. If the Korean private sector steps up to the plate and actually seriously engages and resolves this major health issue in North Korea without access or without it becoming a government program, which is very difficult, I think the future is much more promising.
What do you think will help solve this problem?
The Korean Peninsula is a very special place. This is not what most people think of when they think of a third world situation. You have a peninsula that's relatively small, a homogeneous population, has been divided for 70 years, but they still have a sense of kinship. And yet you have this enormous, in a sense, need for MDR-TB treatment. As a foreigner whose relatives have been in Korea for a long time, but still as a foreigner, as someone who's responsible to our donors, I think we've done our best. Over a difficult 20-year period, we have now developed a process and a system that really works for MDR-TB treatment. It's actually one of the, I would like to think it's one of the better ones in the world. Other people will have to make that decision. But the point is that it's really in the hands of the Korean people. For the 20 years I've been in humanitarian work, most of our donors by far are either Korean citizens or Koreans who are living overseas. And I think if there is assistance out there for North Korea's TB patients, it's not going to come from the U.S., it's not going to come from Europe, it's going to come from here. And I think any time that the Korean people decide they want to do something, they'll do it. It maybe getting them to that decision is the most difficult thing, because right now that decision has not been made. The resources are existent within a relatively small geographic area in this country to solve North Korea's MDR program without really much of a sacrifice. It's just reaching enough people to make that sacrifice. I think there's a tendency in Korea to sort of, when it comes to North Korea, to sit back and just say, well, this is the government's job and we'll just watch and see what happens. But some things can't wait. And I think one of them is MDR-TB.
Now, since we're talking about North and South Korea, South Koreans, I was wondering, especially when there was such tension around inter-Korean relations, was it at any point difficult for you to enter North Korea?
Well, that's a fascinating question, because the answer is no.
No.
And it really revolves around what is Eugene Bell. And too many people, because of our media-driven culture, associate Eugene Bell with me or with my family or whatever. It's not that. From the beginning, Eugene Bell has been a private sector, Korean American and Korean program. Always has, always will be. There are certain aspects of this program that are easier for a non-Korean to do, and therefore I do them. But fundamentally, this is a Korean program. It's a private sector Korean program. And if you look at it from that point of view, it's probably the longest continuous private sector exchange between Koreans in Korea, Koreans overseas, and North Korea that has in existence as we celebrate our 20th anniversary. And not only that, it is an exchange that is respected by the North Korean government and the South Korean government and the U.S. So that in this rather tense political environment, nevertheless, there has been a continuous exchange of life-giving medications, and most of our medicines are made in South Korea, albeit routed around through China, as it is for the time being. But nevertheless, this has been going on without a break. So that even when it looked like there might be war on the Korean Peninsula, we were purchasing medicine, getting government permits to ship it to North Korea, and the North Koreans were accepting medicine that was coming from South Korea and allowing us to medicate some of their most serious patients. So it was almost a parallel universe. But and that's a hopeful sign. I just wish there were many, many, many more dozens of relationships between North and South that were kind of like ours.
Yes, that would be wonderful. That would be nice, actually. Now, over the 20 years since you conceived the idea to implement this medical aid program for North Korea, what kinds of changes have you seen?
Well, it's hard to measure because change is kind of a relative term in some sense. And sometimes people see change when, in fact, their awareness is what's really changing. If you sit in a railroad station, you can't always tell whether your car is moving or the one next to you.
Yes.
And so, in many ways, I think in North Korea, people discover something that has always been there, like markets. and all of a sudden they think something's changed. So there's that sort of false change that obviously is a characteristic of a lot of writing about North Korea. But the other thing is that North Koreans have gotten used to us, so that perhaps the way they treat us changes, but perhaps that doesn't apply to anyone else, or at least for not too many other people. So
How have they changed
well,
in the way they treat
because
you?
the first time we went to a TB center in 1997, it was doing regular TB work. Went through the wards, shake hands or greet the patients. There were only 15 people there. I said, what kind of a treatment center is this? And they said, oh, no, there are 40 people up on the hill who didn't want to meet you. So the patients took off and stayed up in the bushes until we left.
Oh.
Because in those days it was that way about foreigners. But now patients come to us, talk to us, tell us their problems and their concerns about their disease, and so it's much more of a normal human relationship. The more we're able to demonstrate that we are only focused on helping a problem without embarrassing anyone or winning a political point here or there, the more North Koreans respond and open up and are comfortable with us. And that's one of the more gratifying aspects of this work.
I understand that you met someone that left a very strong impression, a good impression on you. I guess this was during a time you were taking part in. Sometime very, I guess, was it recent or?
I have met, I think you're talking about Kim Eran, who we met way back at the beginning of our TB program. I have met many, many very impressive North Korean medical people. These are local people. And while most people believe that North Koreans are hyper-politicized, these are just basically doctors and nurses who want to help people. And I met so many of those. Many of them just take for granted that they need, if necessary, they need to risk their lives for their patients. And whether they're using direct fluoroscopy or whether they're actually being exposed to MDR-TB. In some of the centers where we're working, at one point, when we first started, we had 80% plus of the caregivers on medication because they were all TB patients. They had contracted TB from caring for their patients. And so there's an enormous sense of dedication. And we have people who just barely survived treatment, young ladies who barely survived treatment for MDR who say, I'm going back to nursing school and I'm going to come back and fight this disease. And they say, well, don't you know that there's no immunity to TB and you could get it again? And they say, yes, I know, but this is something I need to do. So I've met many, many impressive caregivers, and that's one of the reasons why, as difficult as this work sometimes is, that it's hard to quit, because you have on one hand enormously generous donors who will actually donate the care for someone they will probably never meet. And on the other hand, you have North Korean caregivers who are risking their lives to treat these people. So I'm in between some very impressive people. And that's one of the reasons that we're able to keep going.
What goes through your mind when you see patients that need to be treated, but yet you may not have enough medication to treat? Obviously, that is reality. Not every patient is able to be treated. It's very sad. It's heartbreaking. But are there any thoughts that go through your mind?
You just try to pick up and get back to South Korea as quick as you can and see if you can't raise some more money. What else can you do? And in a sense, we're not really that successful, because for one thing, we're not able to treat everybody that needs to be treated. And obviously we haven't communicated this message well enough so that there aren't more interested people. And so in a sense, there's a sense of personal failure as well.
Well, I'm sure that through our program, many of our viewers know much more about TB and MDR-TB, and I'm sure that many of our viewers, including myself, the host of the program, very much interested and would love to help in any way I can. So, yeah, let's just hope that our viewers do respond in a very positive way.
Well, thank you very much for being interested. It's not every day that we find people interested in this problem.
At the Eugene Bell Foundation office, we found volunteers making paper cranes.
Our program now, we have 1,500 people under treatment at any given time. And every 6 months when we visit, we graduate 500 people and accept 500 new patients. So we need 500 crane necklaces every 6 months, and it takes a lot of effort to put them together. But
And
it's special.
May I?
Please.
안녕하세요. 선생님 지금 열심히 작업 중이신데
네.
하루에 몇 마리 정도 잡으세요?
대략 한 500마리 정도 잡습니다.
500 cranes per day. That's a lot per person. 그러니까 한 분당 500마리
네.
정도 잡으세요? 손 안 아프세요?
조금 아프지만 북한에 계신 결핵 환자분들에게 이제 좋은 의미로 전달하기 때문에
네.
그분들을 좀 생각하면서 힘들지만 이렇게 열심히 접고 있습니다.
네, 그 따뜻한 마음이 분명히 전달이 될 거라고 믿습니다.
The Eugene Bell Foundation gives paper crane necklaces to the patients graduating from their MDR-TB treatment program. This is because cranes symbolize longevity, which they wish upon their patients. We too hope that all the patients they treat return to their families and enjoy long, healthy lives.
Now, when we were talking about patients that graduated, as I entered your office, I wondered, is the term graduate used a lot for patients that are actually hospitalized? Because I'm more familiar with being discharged from the hospital. Could you tell us about why you choose to use the word graduate?
These people came as failures who were, in a sense, under a life sentence. This is a very life-changing experience, and so we prefer to say that you graduated from a program because actually some of the patients failed.
Yes.
And although our cure rates are 70–75%, it still means that after a year and a half or so of treatment, some of the people are not going to get any better. So we try to make it a happy event, because these patients have really, they haven't studied, but they have undergone an enormous amount of discomfort due to the toxicity of the drugs themselves. And so it's an accomplishment, and we try to respect and honor that.
Now, if you had not founded the Eugene Bell Foundation Korea, have you thought about this? Have you thought about what career path you might have taken? Has that ever occurred to you, that thought?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was teaching in university. Instead of being a boring health worker, I would be a boring professor.
Not boring. I think you would have been a very fun professor to learn from, or to be in class with.
Thank you.
Last but not least, could you maybe say a few words, if there's a message that you would like to send out to our viewers watching from Korea, North Korea, all across the world, a message?
Well, I think the North Koreans, given the situation, have shown unusual openness about TB. And I just want to thank our donors. I mean, 20 years is a long time, and some people have been with us for over 10 years, but even those who have just joined up, I'm deeply grateful. They're the people who make this program possible, and I just wish there were a lot more of them.
Well, thank you very much for that message, and we do hope that we'll be hearing more about support for those in need of help. And we look forward to more of your very devoted, dedicated humanitarian activities. Thank you, Dr. Linton, for your time. And yes, it was wonderful to have you on a show.
Thank you.
감사합니다.